This is Twit.
I'd like to start with something that Don wrote a while ago, comparing the copyright wars, specifically the wars over file sharing and trying to squelch illegal file sharing, with the alcohol prohibition laws that we saw in the earlier part of the last century in our country, and why there's a parallel there, and why that continues to be relevant as copyright issues play out today. Can you give us the overview on that, Don?
Sure, no problem. The thought was really to take a look at alcohol prohibition during the 1920s and 30s, and to see, as you said, whether we can draw some parallels to help us resolve some issues that we're having now, in particular the file sharing issue. And so I took a look at what happened during alcohol prohibition. We had the government saying no more manufacturing, no more sale of alcohol. We passed a constitutional amendment. And what we had hoped was that land would be dry in a short time afterward. And we saw that wasn't the case. In fact, alcohol consumption continued, it increased. And within 10 years, we realized that alcohol prohibition was a horrible mistake. And we amended the Constitution and allowed people to drink. And so what do we get from that? So legitimacy is talking about procedural fairness, participation in the system that passes the laws, and morality is talking about our own sense of right and wrong. Do we believe in the laws? And if we don't have both of these, then we're going to have noncompliance. In the alcohol prohibition context, we saw that people did not morally feel bad about drinking. They did not think it was immoral. In terms of the legitimacy, it was passed by state legislatures. It wasn't passed by a national referendum, so it wasn't as if we put it up to a vote for the nation to decide. And then it became a constitutional amendment. And those are the parallels that I look at when I'm talking about file sharing. So file sharing, we can see in terms of legitimacy, we really had the copyright industry. The copyright industry, huge lobbying efforts to have Congress pass laws that are consistent with their idea of enforcement of copyright. In terms of morality, we have a whole generation of kids initially, but others who believed that file sharing wasn't illegal. And then even when they found that it was illegal, they did not find that it was immoral. We tried to further enforce it by imposing criminal penalties, by increasing fines. We still saw the same level. In fact, we had a higher level of infringement than we had before all of these efforts by the recording and music industry. Similarly, in the alcohol prohibition context, when it was clear that people were going to continue drinking, the government imposed further fines. So instead of a $1,000 fine, it was a $10,000 fine. Instead of 6 months in jail, 5 years in jail. And that did not abate the problem. And so what is my takeaway? Well, perhaps we should look to what happened in alcohol prohibition and no longer make it illegal to file share. Now, that's going to have a number of consequences that we're going to have to address, because the reason, or at least the reason that's most often stated for having file sharing laws, is that artists won't continue to create music if their music is not protected, if they're not getting any revenues from that. And so that's an issue that we have to address. But I think, as I said, what we could draw from this is that when we have this misalignment of social norms and legal norms, one of them have to give. We have to try to align them. So do we increase laws so that society now changes their norms to coincide with the legal norm, or do we change the legal norm, so that they more coincide with societal norms? So that was really the thrust of the article.